In late 1950s, Las Vegas, when the Nevada desert still retained a touch of the wildness of the Old West, the Sands Hotel was a kingdom of stars. Neon lights twinkled like falling stars. The casino bells clanged, and on the Copa Room stage, Rat Pack was dominating. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., they were uncrowned kings. That evening, the atmosphere was even more special. John Wayne, the legendary Duke, was invited as the guest of honor. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and walked with the heavy gait of an old bear from the Arizona desert. Dean Martin, with a radiant smile and a glass of whiskey in his hand, was singing "That's Amore." His voice was smooth, warm, and captivating. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. The audience applauded loudly. Frank Sinatra stood backstage, smiling proudly. John Wayne sat at the VIP table, cigar in hand, nodding along to the rhythm. But amidst the elegant crowd in tuxedos and evening gowns, there was a little girl, about 10 years old, sitting in the back row. Her blonde hair was disheveled, her dress worn, her eyes red and swollen. It was Emily Thompson, the daughter of a mechanic from Tucson, brought to Vegas by her mother for a luxurious dream. Emily wasn't crying out of sadness. She was crying out of happiness, mixed with nostalgia. Her mother had just lost her job, and her father was in the hospital after a road accident. Dean Martin's voice reminded her of the evenings her father sang lullabies to her before his illness struck. Tears rolled down Emily's cheeks, her small sobs enough to make Dean Martin, a man sensitive to emotion, stop mid-song. The entire auditorium fell silent. Sinatra raised an eyebrow. Wayne stopped smoking his cigar. Dean Martin put down the microphone and stepped out of the spotlight. The stage lights shone on his handsome face, but at this moment, he was no longer the star Dean Martin. He was Dino Crocetti, a poor Italian boy from Steubenville, Ohio, who witnessed his family's suffering. Dean Martin stepped off the stage, oblivious to the astonished stares of hundreds of people. He knelt on one knee before Emily, wiping away her tears with a white silk handkerchief embroidered with the letter D. "Little one, why are you crying? Is my singing that bad?" Dean said in his warm, slightly humorous voice. Emily sobbed. "No, your voice sounds like my father's. He used to sing this song, but he's seriously ill." Emily's mother, Clara, sat beside her, her face pale with embarrassment. Sinatra emerged from the wings and Wayne rose to his feet. 3 legendary Hollywood figures surrounded a tiny girl amidst the glittering lights. Dean didn't hesitate. He lifted Emily onto the stage, placed her in a high chair, and continued singing the song, but this time in a duet with Emily. Dean's gentle voice guided her, letting her sing along to the lines she remembered. The audience erupted with emotion. Sinatra joined in, singing backing vocals. John Wayne, though not a singer, clapped loudly, his deep voice saying, "That's a real man, guys." This scene dragged on, interspersed with flashbacks to Dean's childhood, his love for Jean, his children, and his tumultuous career. Dean told funny stories to make Emily laugh and gave her a small gold watch, a personal gift he always carried with him. After the surprise performance, Dean invited Emily and her mother backstage. John Wayne recounted stories of the Arizona desert, of his helping strangers on Route 66. Sinatra quietly arranged a private meeting with the best doctor for Emily's father. The story spread quickly. Vegas newspapers reported, "Dean Martin stops singing because a little girl cries. Rat Pack and Duke Wayne witness true kindness." Dean, Sinatra, and Wayne spent the night talking. They reminisced about their difficult years, about a friendship that transcended envy and fame. Dean confided, "Money and the spotlight can't buy a child's smile. I've lost a lot, so now I don't want anyone else to cry alone." John Wayne nodded. This Duke sees a lot of show-offs, but few can do what you do, Dino. The footage then showed Dean's family, cozy dinners in Beverly Hills, and how he always prioritized his family, despite his busy schedule. The next morning, the Nevada desert sun shone through the palm trees in front of the Sands Hotel, carrying the characteristic, dry, hot air of the West. Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, and John Wayne decided to take an unexpected trip together. No luxury limousine, no noisy entourage. They chose a sleek black 1959 Cadillac Eldorado, big enough for the three legendary men and two special guests, Emily Thompson and her mother, Clara. Dean sat behind the wheel, his sunglasses shielding his tired eyes after a long night of performances and conversations. Sinatra sat in the passenger seat, a cup of strong black coffee in his hand, while John Wayne, his tall frame occupying the back seat, had his old Stetson motorcycle on his lap. Emily sat between Wayne and Clara, her eyes still red but sparkling with rare joy. "Let's go to Tucson, guys. This desert teaches us more than Hollywood," Wayne said in a deep, warm voice, distinctly Texas. He lit a cigar, the smoke drifting lazily out the open window. Dean chuckled, his Italian accent tinged with a smile. "Duke, you're always like something out of a movie. I just want to take Emily home and see her dad. Don't make me sing all the way." Sinatra scoffed. "If you sing, I'll sing backing vocals. But this time don't stop halfway through because someone's crying again, Dino." The Cadillac rolled along the legendary Route 66. The old asphalt road wound through reddish mountains, deserted gas stations, and small diners along the way. The air in the car was filled with conversation. Dean recounted his impoverished childhood in Steubenville, his Italian immigrant parents, and the nights he spent busking to make a living. Sinatra shared his grief over the death of Ava Gardner, though outwardly, he remained the proud chairman of the board. Wayne spoke of his solo drives through Arizona, helping locals without needing the press. Emily listened, occasionally interjecting innocent questions. "Uncle Dean, have you ever cried?" Dean paused, his grip on the steering wheel tightening. "Yes, little one. When Jerry and I broke up in '56, I cried a lot. But then I learned that after crying, you have to get up and sing again." They stopped at a small diner called Cactus Rose in Kingman. The owner, Martha, a widow in her 50s, immediately recognized the three stars. She nervously poured coffee, her eyes never leaving John Wayne. "Mr. Duke, I've seen Rio Bravo 10 times. Wayne smiled, placing a large wad of cash on the counter. "Keep it as capital for the diner, ma'am, and make Emily the best burger in the desert." During the meal, Emily shared more details about her father, Robert Thompson, a World War II veteran who used to drive trucks on Route 66, now seriously injured in an accident and hospitalized in Tucson. Clara wiped away her tears. "We just want the baby to hear Dean Martin sing one last time before it's too late." Dean put his hand on her shoulder. "It's not too late, ma'am. We'll get there." That afternoon, the car drove through Flagstaff, where pine forests were beginning to replace the desert. They encountered a group of veterans repairing a truck by the roadside. A man with a limp recognized Wayne immediately. "You're Duke! I was in Iwo Jima with you and your brothers." Wayne got out of the car, shook his hand, and recounted stories of the war and shared losses. Dean and Sinatra joined in, singing a light-hearted version of My Way to lighten the mood. Emily laughed out loud for the first time in days. "Uncle Wayne is big but as gentle as a teddy bear." Late at night, they stopped at a small motel along Route 66. The neon lights flickered. Vacancy. In the shared lounge, the three men sat around an old wooden table, whiskey and cigars. Dean confided more deeply. "I used to think fame was everything. After Jerry left, I almost lost myself. Then there were nights singing with an empty heart. Last night, seeing little Emily cry, I suddenly remembered why I sing. Sinatra nodded, his eyes sparkling. You're still my best friend, Dino. Rat Pack isn't just about parties. It's about being there for each other when you really need it. Wayne patted Dean on the shoulder. You did the right thing. Kindness isn't a pretense. Duke has seen many show-offs, but few dare to stop singing on stage for a stranger. They slept little and set off early the next morning. In the car, Emily sang along to Dean's Volare, her clear voice mixed with sobs. Clara recounted the hardships of life in Tucson, her husband in the hospital, and tight rent. Sinatra secretly called the manager in Vegas from the rest stop, using a public phone, to arrange for a doctor and hospital bills. The scenery shifted to the red sand dunes of Tucson, with tall cacti. The car stopped in front of a small hospital. Emily's father, Robert, lay in a hospital bed, thin but his eyes brightening when he saw his daughter. Emily, you're home. Dean walked in, not as a star, but as a friend. He softly sang, That's Amore, by the hospital bed. Robert held his son's hand, tears streaming down his face. A few days later, in Tucson, the news spread. Dean Martin decided to hold a small charity concert at the local theater to raise funds for the MDA, Muscular Dystrophy Association, an organization he would later become deeply involved with. Emily was invited as a special guest. The stage was simple but warm. Dean wore a white tuxedo, Sinatra sang backing vocals, and John Wayne sat in the front row, applauding thunderously. As Dean sang, Emily stepped up, her voice trembling but gradually becoming steady. The entire audience fell silent, then erupted. Midway through the performance, Dean stopped singing again, not because he was crying, but because Robert had arrived in a wheelchair. He sang live for the father. This is for fathers who have sacrificed for their children. Jerry Lewis, though far away, sent a congratulatory telegram, the first sign of emotional reconciliation after many years. Sinatra whispered to Wayne, This guy never changed. The performance ended with Everybody Loves Somebody, and everyone sang along. The money raised was enough for Robert's surgery and long-term treatment. Emily hugged Dean. You're a real hero. After the show, Dean returned to his hotel room, his heart heavy. Fame, a hectic schedule, and the pressures of Hollywood were pulling him further and further away from Jean and his children. He sat alone, a glass of whiskey in his hand, reminiscing about his arguments with Jerry Lewis, the lonely nights on tour. John Wayne knocked on the door. Dino, come out with Duke for a bit. They drove into the Arizona desert at midnight. Wayne stopped the car by a cliff, gazing at the stars. You're tormenting yourself with the past. I lost my son in an accident. I almost lost everything. But the kindness you showed Emily today, that's what's lasting. Dean sighed. I'm afraid I'll become as emotionless as many other stars, Duke. Singing for money, for the audience, but forgetting about people. Wayne placed his hand on his friend's shoulder. Don't forget, every time you stop singing because of tears, you win a battle. Sinatra did the same. We're old, but we can still do good. The conversation lasted until dawn. Dean felt the strength of simple, genuine masculine friendship. He decided to prioritize his family and promised to visit Emily often. Sinatra then joined them, the three embracing under the desert dawn. Rat Pack forever, Sinatra said. Emily and her mother remained in Tucson with renewed hope. The story of the singer who stopped singing because of tears spread, inspiring many. Weeks after the MDA charity concert in Tucson, Dean Martin returned to Beverly Hills with mixed feelings. The large house on Hollywood Hill was as luxurious as ever, but Dean felt it colder than ever. His wife, Jan, was busy with the children. Dean Jr., Ricci, Gina, and Dina. The children rushed out to greet their father, but Dean only offered a weary smile, his mind still preoccupied with the image of Emily crying and Robert lying in his hospital bed. That evening, in the spacious living room, Dean sat alone at the piano. He played the scattered notes of "Memories Are Made of This." Sinatra called from Palm Springs. "Dino, are you okay? Don't let the Tucson incident ruin you. We're the Rat Pack. We have to live life to the fullest." Dean gave a sad laugh. "Frank, I'm not ruining it. I'm just thinking. I lost Jerry, almost my whole career. Now I don't want to lose anyone else." The memories pulled Dean back to 1956, the year he parted ways with Jerry Lewis. They were once Hollywood's golden couple, from Atlantic City in 1946, with their crazy comedic performances. Dean sang, Jerry did the antics. Then fame, jealousy, and a hectic schedule drove them apart. Dean remembered his last night on stage, tears streaming down his face backstage. Now his actions with Emily served as a reminder. Kindness can heal the cracks. John Wayne flew in from Arizona to visit. The two men sat by the pool, whiskey and cigars. Wayne, with his deep Western accent, said, "Dino, this Duke lost his son Patrick in an accident. It hurt so much, but I chose to get back on my feet, make films and help people. You should too. Don't let Hollywood swallow your true self." Dean nodded, his eyes reddening. He told him about his secret plan, sending monthly financial support to the Thompson family, and inviting Emily and her mother to Los Angeles for Christmas. Sinatra joined in, arranging a private recording session for Robert, a cassette tape of his favorite songs. Meanwhile, in Tucson, Emily was recovering. She drew pictures of the 3 legendary uncles on Route 66 and mailed them to Dean. The handwritten letter read, "Uncle Dean, I don't cry so much anymore. I want to sing like you." The climax of the episode was Dean's surprise visit to Tucson alone. He drove his old Cadillac without notice. At the hospital, he sang "Everybody Loves Somebody Sometime" to Robert. Robert took Dean's hand and whispered, "Thank you. You gave my daughter hope." Dean sat there for hours telling funny stories about Rat Pack, making the whole ward laugh. In 1961, news of Dean Martin stopping singing because the little girl cried still spread through newspapers and radio. Dean continued his successful solo career with big hits, but he always made time for charity. Emily, now 12 years old, became the Thompson family's lucky girl. Robert had a successful surgery, thanks to the support of Sinatra and Wayne, and could walk with crutches. Dean, Sinatra, and Wayne organized another desert trip, this time to film a short promotional video for MDA. On Route 66, they stopped at Cactus Rose Diner. Martha was still there, now busier thanks to the old story. Emily and her mother joined in, creating a heartwarming scene. Dean sang, Emily danced along, and Wayne played the desert hero, rescuing her from a fake bully, a supporting actor. During a break between scenes, the 3 men sat around a campfire. Sinatra smoked, his eyes distant. "You know, I used to think I was immortal. Then I lost Ava, lost Sammy. But seeing Dino do this, I see I can do even more." Wayne nodded. "This Duke isn't a great singer, but I know a good man when I see him. Dino, you're a role model for Hollywood." Dean smiled, his voice warm. "Thanks to you guys and Emily, I've rediscovered my passion, Jerry. I still hope we'll talk again someday, not for money but for friendship." The scene ended with Dean lifting Emily onto his shoulders, singing "That's Amore" under the Arizona starry sky. The short film aired on television, raising millions of dollars for the MDA. Robert wrote a thank you letter. You guys turned tears into hope. Emily's inner world developed. She dreamed of becoming a singer, practicing daily with cassette tapes from Dean. Clara found a stable job thanks to connections from the Rat Pack. In 1967, Las Vegas was still vibrant but had changed considerably. The Sands Hotel remained the centerpiece, and Dean Martin was preparing for a special performance for the MDA telethon. The news that Jerry Lewis would be appearing via video link from New York added to the excitement. Emily Thompson, now 18, beautiful and talented, was invited as a guest singer. That night, the Copa Room was packed. Dean walked onto the stage in a white tuxedo, his voice still smooth. Midway through Volare, he paused, not because he was crying, but because he saw Emily in the audience, alongside her healthy parents. He smiled and beckoned her onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, 8 years ago, I stopped singing because a little girl cried. Today, she's grown up and is singing with me. Emily sang a perfect duet. The audience erupted. Sinatra appeared from backstage, singing backing vocals. Then on the big screen, Jerry Lewis appeared, his eyes red. Dino, I still love you, buddy. Dean, moved, his voice trembling, said, Jerry, we never really broke up. John Wayne, sitting in the front row, clapped thunderously. He stood up, his voice booming. Those are real men! The performance ended with My Way, and Everybody Loves Somebody. Dean hugged Emily, whispering, Thank you for crying that day. You saved me. Afterward, backstage, the group gathered. Dean, Jerry, Sinatra, Wayne, the Thompson family. They reminisced, laughed, and promised new projects. Emily became a young singer, always dedicating her first song to her 3 legendary uncles. The story spread like a legend, reminding us that between the spotlight and the vast desert, kindness and friendship are what endure.